Welcome to the Lubbock or Leave It podcast, a recruiting podcast on RedRaidersports.com. I'm Matt Clare. Always with me here is Ben Golan. But first and foremost, we want to thank Carnley Properties, our title sponsor. Clayton Carnley and his team will help you with any real estate needs in the Austin metro area, residential, ranch land, everything in between. If you guys are making a big decision and you're for some reason listening to this podcast, you need a Red Raider on your side. Clayton and his team are stand-up folks, and we'll post all of their information here under this video. But Carnley Properties is the top sponsor of the Lubbock or Leave It podcast, and we do appreciate them. Ben, how you doing this week?
I'm doing well, Matt. All week's always better when you get the win, double better, if that's even a word, when the Cowboys win also. So, just all peaches over here.
There you go. Double better and peaches. That's really, like, if you don't know Ben, that's really excitement from him, just illuminating. Right. So yes, you mentioned it, coming off a win. The team is 4-1. If you're going to respond on the road, what Morgantown, whether they're playing well or not, it's no walk in the park. I thought down a quarterback, down a receiver, down other all conference players on defense and starters, and just having to have a next man up sort of approach. We haven't seen them play maybe, 4 great quarters of football. That 17-0 let West Virginia come back, score 17 in the third, and all of a sudden you've got a tie game and you go back and forth there a little bit. But at the end of the day, you got the win. 4-1, Ben. I mean, I know we will always like to tie it back to recruiting. So for me, things that stood out were, I thought Jerron Bradley made an incredible catch. I thought when you've got a 6'6", 220 plus pound receiver, they've got to pay attention to him. He may not have the accolades that an Izukanma does, but anytime you get those big guys on the outside like that, they had the graphic on the screen. They called out Jerron Bradley and they called out Mason Tharp. And those are guys that on this podcast last year, we may have been talking about them as high school seniors, literally. So just a pretty good example about how they can come in, get within the program and start to contribute right away. I mean, any other guys like that, whether it's true freshmen or some redshirt freshmen that stood out to you this weekend, Ben?
Loic Fouonji made, probably the play of the game with that third down, 46-yard catch in the, to start the fourth quarter. Just overall, I was just very impressed by Sonny Cumbie. I thought, right out the gates, he put together a very good drive, got 3 first downs, then they turn it over on the trick play, but, get the ball back and then 2 more scoring drives right after that. So, whatever they worked on during the week, they had a plan and they executed perfectly. And, credit to the coaches and credit to Henry Colombi. I thought he was in control. He didn't turn it over. No touchdown passes, but he was efficient, high completion percentage, and he kept the offense moving and in short yardage situations. So I just thought he looked, a lot better than any time we saw him last year. So if you can get, that version of Henry Colombi every game, then that gives you a chance because, like I said, he took care of the ball and he put the offense in good positions to continue drives.
No, I have to agree with that. And to go back to your comments on Sonny Cumbie, I did like the play calling. And what I liked and what I think maybe they're working towards or setting up is another young man that, when we're talking going back to recruiting and how their coaches are building the roster, you've seen Donovan Smith come in to spell Colombi, and you saw that probably more so than ever this past game in Morgantown. I believe he came in 3 to 4 snaps. That's just off the top of my head. And what I mean by that is he got the snap and he ran every time. I don't know if he had any big, gains. I think they were all 2, 3, maybe 4 yards. But the point I'm making is I feel like that's Cumbie, in his bag a little bit, setting up other teams to watch that on film or assume things. And then Donovan's going to pop back and let one rip to Easy or Loic or someone like that. So it just gives you maybe a different element. Certainly Colombi has his feet under him, but Smith is a whole different beast with his frame and his athleticism. But anyway, that stood out to me. You continue to hear Philip Bleedy's name, another kid that got on the field as a true freshman, has done nothing but gain weight and developed as a defensive lineman. So, those are all signs of progress. Those are, just a couple guys. We can't go up and down the list, but in terms of standing out and some of the youth on your roster, you mentioned Loic, and I mentioned the true freshman. You just got contributions from everyone, and I think sometimes those are the best kind of wins. And hopefully they can take some of that and build that momentum, coming back home this weekend against TCU. Ben, anyone else you wanted to highlight before I move on?
Yeah, not a freshman, but a newcomer, Rashad Williams. I thought at corner, you didn't see him on the screen a lot, and so as a corner, that's what you want. You don't want to get thrown at, you don't want to give up catches. I thought he was consistent. With DeMarcus Fields out, it was basically Rashad Williams and Adrian Fry, and those guys played every single snap at corner. So, I mean, you had to have it, and to their credit, I thought they both competed, but Williams, I think, was probably a little bit better. And he still has 3 years of eligibility. So, not a freshman, but a guy who could still be here, several more years in the future. You got to like his potential.
Yep. Well, parlaying that topic into this current 2022 recruiting class, looking up and down the list, I brought this up to you when we were talking about show ideas, and we had forgotten that you just saw the young man only a few days ago. But in my opinion, out of the current commits and just, maybe casting any sort of opinions or options into the future, I think running back Bryson Donald out of Tyler Legacy, I think he's someone that is already built and has the ability to come in. Like look at something that's happening right now with Brooks out on the lamb, and you've got Roderick still nursing a shoulder. I mean, you come into a situation like that next year, knock on wood, you don't want to foresee injuries, but they're a reality. I mean, to me, Ben, I look at the commitment list and I see him as another one of these prospects that if they sign with Tech, could potentially be that player next year where we're calling their name on Saturdays. Could you tell us a little bit more about getting to see him in person and, interacting with him a little bit?
Yeah, I do think he'll sign with Tech. He seemed, very locked in, told me he wasn't really talking to any other programs. I posted that audio, but yeah, Donnell is kind of a do-it-all back. He's multi-talented. And what I mean by that is he's big enough to run between the tackles, but he's also out there catching passes and getting in the open field and making guys miss. So, kind of the do-it-all package there, and he plays in a loaded backfield. We've talked about this before. Jamarian Miller, Texas commit, also running back. So it doesn't get much better than that at just the high school level. And both of them, had huge games. In the game I was at, Bryson went for 111 yards, I think, 2 touchdowns, and Miller, I think over 200 yards and like 4 touchdowns. He just went crazy, but I mean, yeah, just
it seems like on the stats, sorry to interrupt. It seems like that with that duo, they kind of flip back and forth week to week on, maybe one week Bryson has 4 touchdowns and Jamarian has 2 or so on and so forth. But, especially at the high school level, like you said, it's so impressive to see a running tandem like that just be so productive week after week.
Yeah. And he, he's one of those guys that's a team leader. You saw him, before the game, they're running out of the inflatable helmet, and he's the one, rallying the guys. And so, one of those team leaders that you want to have. And he talked about developing good relationships with Coach Smith and the other commits. So, I definitely expect him to be a Red Raider. I don't think there's anything to worry about there.
Yeah. And, just talking to Bryson, I know you mentioned it. I think you mentioned already it was his birthday. I just think the maturity, the level of play, coming into college as someone that's already shared a backfield with someone else that has elite talent. I just think that'll go a long way. So, just kind of putting in my call, I guess, whether you saw him last week or not, when I scan the recruit list, that, I think that's the guy that can come in and make some noise pretty early. We'll see. Maybe the book's not closed quite yet on the 2022 recruiting class and, who they add at the high school level. But Ben, before I get to that, not only do we have our title sponsor, Carnley Properties, but we're proud to announce another partnership with a former sponsor, Home Field Apparel. Ben, if you go to Home Field Apparel, we'll put their website here, and you're a first-time buyer at the website. They have excellent Texas Tech shirts. I'll just show you one that I have here. Hopefully you guys can see that. What's going on in my background? Uh-oh. It worked before.
There it is.
Okay, there it is. Look at that, guys. Oh man, I should work at QVC. Anyway, Home Field Apparel. I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard about it. We ran a promo with them earlier in the summer, but if you didn't take advantage of that one, promo code RRS, 15% off your first order. I have 3 of them. I wore that one earlier to my son's football practice. Got a little hot outside coaching the boys, so I took a shower and changed. But I think that worked, and you guys see it. But now that we're getting close to the fall, they've got hoodies, they've got all sorts of stuff there. I really enjoy mine. I'm a bigger boy, and so I like soft shirts that fit right. And so definitely check them out. Ben, he doesn't even know where his Home Field shirt is. So guys at Home Field, if you're listening to this, just send me some more. Not Ben. With that being said, Ben, kind of want to parlay that into more of a conversation around the 2022 class, because for you and I, guys that are on the hunt, trying to find the next story for 2022. I feel like we've got a few things to talk about, but like we touched on last week, when you look at beyond the 8 commitments that they have today, they meaning the Texas Tech coaches, right now we're going to talk about Major Everhart out of Amarillo Tascosa, who will be announcing his commitment tomorrow. He announced final lists of Notre Dame, Texas Tech, and TCU. We'll get to that story. But overall, Ben, I mean, above and beyond that, there's just not this long line of potential targets or potential offers that we see. And just kind of harking back for the podcast reasons, you look at last year, 11 high school signees that included 1 late signee out of Lubbock. And so, could you see a couple more added? Certainly. But if you look at this and you don't get Major tomorrow, certainly kids change their mind, whatnot, you stay in touch. But you're looking at 8 commits. It's about to be, October's here and we're in the middle of it. I don't know. Where do you see this thing going from a numbers standpoint, Ben? If you had to guess right now on the amount of high school commits the coaches take.
Yeah, I don't know if I see more than 10, 11. I mean, if I'm being honest, I would think they would like to add another slot, potentially, Major or maybe someone else. If there's another high school offensive lineman or a guy like Curly Thomas, who, last week, I posted that, he's still talking to Tech and he could still have interest. But beyond that, like you mentioned, there's not the whole list of targets that are there. But this is the new way. You get guys in here like I just talked about, Rashad Williams with 3 years left, Josiah Pierre with 4 years left. Essentially a high school recruit. So this is the new way. And, the Tech coaches have been successful in that department.
Yeah. And, injuries just aside, you still want the guys that can come in and help change culture, help start right away, like a Marquise Waters. You mentioned Geiger. I think they tweeted out his catch and great adjustment, from the game last week. So it's a new world. We all have to adjust to it, but it has to be discussed as well. But I mentioned all of that to say what I said earlier is Major Everhart has been a longtime target for these coaches. And we go back to the West Texas thing, trying to keep these kids home, but regardless, I mean, they were his first Power 5 offer. They have recruited him hard. I wrote a story when I was finally able to talk to him, I think twice I've talked to him. Maybe you've talked to him once. Typically we're having to kind of go back and forth with Dad. So for either of us to say we have a feel or a pulse on the situation would be, that'd be an exaggeration because we don't. But the last time I talked to him, I mean, Tech really rolled out the red carpet. The big takeaway from the update was that he met with the president. He met with the athletic director. I mean, they are letting him know that he's a priority. Since then, official visit to Notre Dame, now visit to TCU last week. He's visited all these schools. Everything's here. Announcement tomorrow at the pep rally. Ben, I mean, without much ado, what are we thinking here when he makes the decision tomorrow?
Yeah, I would say make no mistake. Like you said, they put the full court press on this guy. I think the coaches did everything they could. They went to see him. I mean, Coach Wells saw him play last week, right? There was a picture of him on the sideline with 2 other former Tascosa players. He's visited multiple times. They, like you said, he met with the president and the AD. I mean, I think the coaches really did everything they could. They were his first offer, close to home. And so, I mean, here we are down to 3. I posted last night, It wouldn't surprise me to see TCU. I think that's still how I feel. That's not confirmed. That's just, usually, what are we, 12, 13 hours before the kid announces? Usually we have a pretty good idea. It's really up in the air. And to me, maybe that means, not Texas Tech. And so I would just guess TCU based on his visit there last week.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's all we can do is emphasize just how much the coaches, really put the full court press on. I know even as early as us setting up that last interview with him, can't look it up right this second, but I would guess 3-4 weeks ago, even his dad at that time was saying, I'm ready for this to be over, because you guys got to remember, I mean, whether the recruits choose Tech or not, the phone calls, the Zooms, the email, the everything that comes along with that, I think it impacts the whole family. And, the good thing is he's visited all of these programs. You've given it your fair shot. I think it's disappointing if he goes to TCU, but we've seen it happen. I mean, I think, talk about funny timing. TJ Steele from the Lubbock area that just signed with TCU last year, just entered the transfer portal today after not even finishing 1 year at TCU. And college football just changes so much. It's easy for me to highlight TJ and guys like Jacob Zeno and former Tech targets or not Tech targets. I think at the end of the day, Major has the athletic ability to truly impact an offense, whether it's any of these programs we're talking about. And so, smaller guy, but very fast. And, I could see him playing sort of like a Tyreek Hill running back, jet sweep, slot receiver type of role in college, and doing it very well. So make no mistake, if they don't land him and he goes to TCU and you have to play him once a year, that's a tough blow, because like you'd said, the coaches have been in this since the beginning, literally his first offer, and with Coach Wells there last week. I think, with that being said, every coaching staff, with a brain has a backup plan. I know, sorry, I just rambled there for a second. I know I asked you. I too believe I've worked with our Notre Dame guys a lot over the years. I don't think they're confident in the Irish landing him. And if, I agree with Ben, if me and him aren't hearing smoke, then odds are either we're very wrong or he's most likely going to TCU. So we'll see. I mean, I haven't heard anything definitive, so we'll be watching just like everyone else tomorrow to see what happens. But all of that to say, Ben, all coaches have a backup plan. They keep irons on the fire. They understand, the variables in recruiting. And I kind of want to tie that back to the game this weekend, right? Speaking of TCU, Horned Frogs are coming in town off a loss to Texas. Actually, 2 straight losses, SMU the week before at home and Texas at home. So now they have to come on the road. I don't know injury status, or, we're not here to preview the game, but it's a 6 p.m. kickoff in Lubbock. So I feel the coaches are taking advantage and having some, we already touched on, they may or may not take additional 2022 targets, but they're definitely looking forward to 2023. And I know you're going to give us an overview of the, not the entire list, but kind of some of the highlights of what you posted on our message board at redraidersports.com.
Yeah. So, you think of the maybe backup options right away. Gavin Freeman is an athlete, slot receiver type from Oklahoma City. He has offers from Air Force in Tulsa, and he's going to be visiting this weekend. And, I thought it was interesting. His dad, Jason Freeman, he was a former tight end at Oklahoma. He actually played, when Coach Wells was a coach over there. And so that's how, they have that relationship there. And I think he's been in contact with the coaches. He visited Oklahoma as well a couple of weeks ago. And so, is Oklahoma going to offer? I think possibly if you go, you go look at Sooner Scoop, you get your go look at your Rivals board, the little $2 editions that we just started.
Yeah, that's right. Spy on your rival.
Spy on your rival. Go look at Sooner Scoop, and they're talking about him over there. So, a very talented prospect who's putting up monster numbers. Will they offer this weekend? Potentially. We'll see, but I look forward to catching up with Gavin after and asking him about it. I think he's pretty excited about this visit, and the obvious comparison is Wes Welker. They come from the same high school, and so that's a fun one for Tech fans.
Yeah, I think the interesting part of all this is you look at the makeup. And sorry, guys, in the background there, I was typing a little bit. Tech just offered. We'll give you breaking news. Tech just offered Michael Harrison Pilot, 2023 athlete out of Temple, Texas. He is the number 127 prospect in the nation. He has 33 offers, now 34 from Texas Tech. So you're in it. You got to be in it to win it. But that's your breaking news. Sorry. So that got my attention. But I guess, Ben, what I was thinking is, I don't know what I don't know about the young man that you just described. But when we talk about recruiting profiles, I mentioned that Everhart would be like a slot sort of Swiss Army knife on offense. And if you turn on the tape for Freeman, he does some similar things. We certainly have him listed as an athlete. But that smaller stature sort of slot role. You look at Freeman, certainly Everhart if they can land him, and then you look to the commitment list with Tyler King.
Yeah.
We were just talking at the top about big old guys like Jerron Bradley, Mason Tharp, Loic Fungi, all these 6'5" and above guys. So maybe the coaches are kind of coming back in and finding, someone that can give Miles Price a spell, and certainly maybe getting guys so that you don't have to grab guys like Geiger if you don't necessarily need them, and do other things with those spots. So to me, how that develops is interesting. But yeah, I can't emphasize it enough. I think Heritage Hall is one of the larger programs in Oklahoma. And, for him to be on the OU radar is certainly something. So we'll talk with Gavin, after the visit and see where the coaches are at. But I do really think that, whatever Everhart decides, could impact what happens next with young Mr. Freeman here.
Yeah, because, you look at the roster, you lose McLean Mannix. I'm not sure if he has the option to return. He might, but he's a senior, and Dalton Rigdon is also a senior. So, 2 slot guys would make sense to bring in 2 potentially. But yeah, and also I wanted to mention, you just said Michael Harrison Pilot and his 33 offers. Matt told me he would eat a shoe on his podcast if that guy comes to Tech. So, everyone stay tuned.
Yeah, no, the shoe's not my thing. But we talked, so that was the end of our topics, right? And then that offer happened. But this is the same topic we talked about last week, Ben. If you're a rabid Texas Tech football fan, which many people watching this are, I think it's very, very fair to ask yourself how in the world, when you have an entire recruiting department now, not just one person, how are you somebody's 34th offer? I don't get it. How are you, this kid has already been there and done that in recruiting. What do you say to that kid that he hasn't already heard 1,000 times? What do you do to make Texas Tech stand out? And that is an uphill battle. You have got to tap dance your way into his living room, getting him to visit, et cetera, et cetera. I know it's a long time with 2023, but it's happening earlier and earlier and earlier. And the trend I see with 90% of the offers is that these kids already have 15, 20, 25, 30 offers. And I know, like I talked about last time, maybe they don't truly have 33, but at that point, at that age, we're sort of drawing straws on who's more correct there or what the reality is. For me, it's pretty cumbersome to talk to a young man that just received his 33rd offer. And, I've had kids literally say to me, yeah, I had offers from all the other schools in Texas, but I never hear from them, and that's what we hear, Ben. And so I don't know. I know that the approach and that the limited amount of spots has something to do with that. But we literally just talked about this last week. You have this many offers in 2023. your competition has this many, and it just blows my mind. I have no answer for it.
Now you have this many and then plus one. So
plus one. Yeah. Right. I mean, however you want to tip that scale.
Yeah,
it's very
you're right.
Measurement.
You're right. I don't have anything to add. I just always like when the recruits post their picture of someone who, like, barely played or is no longer with the program, like Quincy Addison over here, God bless him. But, what did he have? Like 2 career tackles. Anyways.
Hey, maybe he knows Quincy. I covered Quincy's recruitment out of Angleton, and he's a horse riding dude. In fact, his teammate BJ Foster is still playing safety for Texas. So I really don't know where Quentin is. I wish him the best of luck, but yes, that is always entertaining to me. I mean, I guess the offer comes in and the kid goes to Google. I mean, we've seen, I don't know if you remember Last Chance U from a few years ago when they did the second or third season, they watched a kid get like a DM from a coach and him like go to Google, find the pick, post it. I got my offer, praise Jesus or whatever. Is just, I mean, I think it happens so fast. It doesn't get proofread, and I don't think they know that guy doesn't play at Tech anymore. But yeah, I mean, again, we look at it like this. You've got Bo Davidson, your director of recruiting. You've got Coach Pearson, director of player personnel. You lost a few folks. They didn't backfill one of the positions, but again, it's not a one-man band in recruiting. And I know that they've changed to maybe this half and half approach. But man, when you think of quality of prospect and, the odds of you winning some of these battles, when we're talking about Major Everhart, you're his first offer. And again, we kind of ended the podcast like this last week. Does it really matter? You're his first offer. And we're talking about how he may be going to TCU. And I know that, that can be argued either which way, does it really matter? What I would say is I would absolutely argue that if you're first to offer, then you're in the final 3. If you're 33rd to offer, you don't make the top 20. And I stand behind that with money in my pocket, my pride on the podcast. I mean, it's got to change. If they think these guys are what they are, if they evaluate them, maybe this changes a little bit, as we move forward in non-COVID years, but the film's there. The network of coaches are there. These guys aren't just growing on trees in the state of Texas. Once you get past some of these DBs, just like in the NFL, just like at the college level, you see the grade of talent, go down. And I guess it is a crapshoot once you get them onto campus, transfers, bus, the whole 9 yards. But the numbers bear out, Ben. I mean, the numbers simply bear out. If you're in early on a kid like that, you recruit them hard, you're going to make the top 3. If you're 30, offered 20 plus, 30 plus, you got to fight and claw to get your way, into that top group or to get that young man's attention. So, hopefully they can catch up to that cycle. And, we sort of started talking about Major and Gavin so much, but speaking of 2023, did you want to highlight a few of those guys before we wrap it up?
Yeah, 2 guys who hold an offer, and we're going to add to the list. I expect to hear back from some more recruits, tomorrow and Friday. But Avion Carter, a 4-star defensive end from Amarillo, Tascosa, and then Anthony Evans, who is not ranked, but he has double-digit offers from Converse Judson. He's an athlete, and then beyond that, you have an interesting guy. I think Carson Dean. He's a 3-star linebacker. He has 2 Power 5 offers, Baylor and Washington. He is visiting and told me he's been in contact with Coach Cosgrove and the recruiting team. So I just think those are 3 interesting guys. You certainly have a few more, but we can't go over everyone right now.
Yeah, a lot of time left in the 2023 class. I think from these visits, it's so easy to blink and it'll be like January, February, kind of like that. That turn of the page, and then you start junior days and stuff like that. And the guys like Carson Dean that have the frame, that have a few offers that maybe you're close to offering, those are the guys where you can get in early, make them a top priority, get them back on campus and sort of build that rapport. That's what I mean by, the reality of it is this past summer was the first time the coaches could host kids on campus, period, after COVID. So I think with visits, with size of the class, and with, and with the timing of it all, we'll start to see some of that normalize. But I definitely agree. Carson Dean, 6'3", 230, that one definitely caught my eye. And, Avion Carter, funny enough, same thing, Amarillo, Tascosa. So, if Ben and I hope to be wrong, maybe Major Everhart commits to your Red Raiders. We're leaning towards TCU on our prediction here this evening, 12 hours, maybe before the 12 hours or less, I would say, before the announcement. But Avion Carter, same school, very much a standout, 10 plus offers and counting. From some major programs, and he's been on your campus several times. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to continue that pace. You're not going to get them all, but I think you got to recruit them. You got to love them up hard. And you like to see what they have going with Avion, because some of these kids that they offer, they don't even get the visit, or that doesn't reciprocate. So definitely like those guys. And like you said, it's only Wednesday night. There's probably at least 10 more guys that we haven't identified or that haven't shared a tweet, or whatnot. So I expect it to be a pretty good weekend. Ben, you want to wrap it up with maybe a tease on your thoughts or prediction going into the weekend? I mean, you guys all picked West Virginia and then Tech won. So maybe you should just, carry on with that.
Yeah, let's end on a positive note. I think I'm just excited, night games, throwback uniforms, that's
yes.
If they wear the ones they were against Arkansas, which I don't know, I guess that's what people have been saying. That was my senior year. I just remember those being so cool and how excited I was. So, hopefully it's those. But yeah, I mean, 4-1. This is really a big game, a good chance to, to go to 5-1, and then you got Kansas potentially 6-1. Like, you just start looking, when was the last time Tech had a start like that? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I mean, they have a chance here, and it's a home game. It's basically a pick 'em, right? TCU is like a 1.5 point favorite. Yes, you'll be with a backup quarterback, some other guys dinged up, but I just think the chances there. And for the first time in years, it feels like Tech is playing in a relevant, like it should be a sold out, great atmosphere, the opportunity is there. And this is a beatable TCU team. I mean, they're on a 2-game losing streak. They barely beat Cal before that. I think you can compete with them, and just don't leave anything on the field is what I'm saying. I want to see both coordinators come out with their, full on game plan, come after Max Duggan. Don't let him sit in the pocket. I don't think he can beat you with his arms. So just, leave it all on the field is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. Night game, blackout. Obviously, SFA, FIU, those are the appetizers. One didn't go so well. One went according to plan. But as a student, those aren't the games you sort of mark on the calendar or the schedule, if you will. I think the students will be excited. I think it's a Saturday night, so you get more of the alumni from out of town there, sold out, ruckus crowd. I think that bodes well for the home team, especially these guys that we talked about earlier that are having to step up and fill in gaps. And regardless of what happens, what I would say, 4-1 is great. If you find a way like you did last weekend and come away with a win against TCU, not only do you put them like in the garbage can with three straight losses, but at 5-1, I mean, you're absolutely going bowling. There's no question about it after that, because you're going to play some worse teams. I know you're sort of maybe doubting me after I say that out loud. I saw a little bit of a concern in your face there, but I would believe it. And I don't know, because I'm not here to say they'll win or they'll lose. But I absolutely wasn't expecting them to go on the road and do what they did last weekend. So, I'd like to be surprised again. I'll leave it at that. But I think the Tech students and fans can do everything in their power to make it difficult on TCU. And, I'm hoping that win, lose, or draw, that they're so horrible to Gary Patterson. I mean, this year has been the year of Gary whining to the media every week about something or making some sideways comment. So Lubbock and Texas Tech fans, let's get your own comment from Gary Patterson. You can do it. We believe in you. I think that is it. For Ben Golan, I'm Matt Clare. This is the Lubbock or Leave It podcast. Thank you to Carnley Properties. Thank you to Home Field Apparel. Check out the links, and we will see you guys next week.